What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the character guide for Clive Rosfield. Not everyone expected this character to join Tekken, but it's not that much of a surprise when Noctis was in Final Fantasy 15 and in the last game, and now Clive from Final Fantasy 16 is in this game. It might not be your cup of tea, but his magic sword fire guy stuff is all in all pretty cool to look at. So if that's the kind of thing that seems interesting to you, he's a really straightforward character that's easy to pick up. And then as you get familiar with what he's supposed to do and how it works, he gets really good. There's a lot of cool stuff in there once you learn the basics. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's get started. So as always, I like to start with punishers. These are generally your fastest, strongest moves, and a lot of them have applications in neutral besides just block punishing. It's really important to learn to pick up the free damage your opponent gives you when they make mistakes. If they do something really risky and you don't punish them for it, they're going to keep doing it, right? So you got to learn your punishes, and these moves have a lot of application beyond that. I think it's a cool feature of this character, his flexibility. His basic move set has tons of ways to use it in more advanced ways. So starting off with 10 frames, we have 1-1, simple jab string, that's natural combo. You can hold forward to go into your Phoenix Shift stance and run a quick mix-up from here. You can do hard mix-ups and you can do soft mix-ups out of this stance. It's pretty versatile, but you have to go into the right situation. And this is a good one. 1-1 punish in the stance is pretty good. But you can also just do 1-2 and get a simple knockdown. More damage in a knockdown is much easier, and you can, do mix-ups from here. Go right at him with a raw Phoenix stance. It's up to you. That's what I mean about versatility. You can just do a simple thing and get damage, or you can play the longer game and leverage some of that damage into a, different situation. 12 frames, same thing. 4-4 is a natural combo, right into stance. Plus 14 frames into your stance means you can do anything you want, and they really can't challenge it. They have to kind of hold that mix up. There are limits to everything, right? Every move has a counterplay, but plus 14 into stance is really good. However, if you just want damage, 2-1. Do the opposite. 1-2 for 10 frames, and 2-1 for 12 frames. There's a knockdown and done. So you don't have to go for the stance if you want to keep it simple. You can keep the stance for when you're in control and just stick to basic punishes, when you're under pressure. It's up to you. The only move he has at 13 is this heat engager, 1+2. It's a safe mid, and it's a heat engager really fast. It's not the launching type, it's just a skid. You don't get a full combo, you just get that follow-up. But it's still a really good move. So at 13 frames, 24 damage into heat engage is pretty good for your Punisher. 14, you have down forward 1-2-1. This is a natural combo, and you can easily confirm, yep, I got it, and let the one rip. When you're using this out in neutral, you kind of want to just do that, right? Or you could do down forward 1-2 in stance. So you can do that as your Punisher as well. You can decide to just do the whole 3-hit string, or you can do 2 hits in the stance and go for something else there. Up to you. Very versatile, like I said. You can keep it simple, or you can go another layer deep. And at 15 is down forward 2. Basic, launcher, nothing fancy. 15 startup, minus 13, just like all the classics. You don't need any more than that. As far as crouching goes, you have while standing 4, which is, again, straightforward like everyone else. But this one you can hold forward and go in stance. I would suggest only doing this as a Punisher. If you blocked a low and you do while standing 4 to punish, go ahead and go into stance. That +6 is enough. Do not do the stance out in the open for this move any other time. Only when you know you have the punish is it safe. Same is true at 13 frames with while standing 1. Same result there. This is even less damage. It makes you wonder, why would you even do that when the while standing 4 is more damage into stance? The reason is, if you keep doing this and you mix it up on them a little bit, you also have while standing 1-2, which is a natural combo, so you could just do that, right? You could do that as your 13 Punisher and be done. But while standing 1 into stance makes them start thinking about your pressure a little bit, and if they get fooled into while standing 1-2 and they get hit by that counter hit, you get that follow-up. So all of them put together kind of makes them a little bit more susceptible. It's not the best move, but you can leverage this a little bit further if you want to. So while standing 1 and 1-2 are pretty interesting. And again, at 13 frames, you can keep it simple. While standing 1+2 does the exact same heat engager. It's not any slower. It's the exact same 13 frames. You get your heat engager and a follow-up in heat mode. And lastly, 15, while standing 2, straightforward launcher again. One of the better launchers, you get a slightly heavier combo off of this, so pretty solid all around. Minus 14 on block, though. But that's exactly what you'd expect. So this is a straightforward set of moves, right? You could just do your damage and go about your day, or you can sacrifice damage and use your Phoenix to put more layers of pressure and more damage on them potentially. So it's how you want to play the character, like I said in the beginning. You can keep it simple, or you can play another card and see how far that takes you. At any point, you can just cut it off. Like, oh, this isn't working. He's blowing me up. Then just switch to keeping it simple. That applies in every phase of the game, including his basic punishers. Next up, let's talk about that stance. Your Phoenix Shift is a pretty big part of your gameplay. It does a lot of good things for you. There's good potential in there. You can do small little mix-ups. You can go for it all if you need to. Just don't overextend yourself. You do this by just pressing forward 4 and he just slides into the stance. And there's a ton of moves that he can do the transition into this. But this whole time, he can't block. There's no way for him to stop and cancel this. So if you commit to the stance, you kind of have to deal with that. You're better off to honestly do an attack. If you look at 1-1 and right into that stance, he actually gets almost immediately, right? He flashes for just a second before going into it. But if I just do 1-1 in the stance, he's vulnerable that whole time. He can't stop. So the fact that you can act again way faster than you can block means you're kind of locked into doing a move if you go into the stance. So as a general rule, if your attack gets blocked, you shouldn't continue. They should have the advantage. If your attack lands, you can continue because you have the advantage. That's just a general rule. It's the way a game usually works. And when it comes to stance transitions, most of the time, if your attack lands, you do a punch kick and it hits, and then you go into stance, you can do your stance stuff, right? You should have the advantage there. And conversely, if that punch kick gets blocked, your stance is vulnerable. And that gets multiplied by this guy, mainly because he can't block. If you got 1-1 blocked and you went into stance, there's a hop kick. You'll do whatever you want. Even if you get it blocked and you do something into stance, odds are they can blow you up because you don't have the advantage there. So, to go over the list of moves that transition into Phoenix stance, that's not true for all of them. It's generally true, but there are, let's say, 4 moves that let you go above and beyond that. So as far as the basics, you have 1-1 into stance. On hit, it's fine. On hit, you can see it's +6. That lets you do the basic mix-up, which is Phoenix 2 versus Phoenix 4. They can't interrupt you from doing it. They can power crush, they could sidestep, they could do whatever. There's always an answer. But when it comes to jabbing you out of your stance, when 1-1 hits, they cannot interrupt that 2 options, the 2 and the 4. They both will counter hit the opponent, and they both have cool counter hit properties. So that's what we mean by having the advantage. When 1-1 hits and you're +6, Phoenix 2 versus Phoenix 4 is a kind of a guaranteed opportunity for that mix-up. 2-2 is the same. 2-2 is a pretty similar string right into the stance. The rules are the same. Forward 2-2, again, same thing. -5 on block is not good. But if it hits on +6 going into the stance, so you can tell that needs a counter hit. Because that's not a natural combo. They'll block that. So forward 2-2 is kind of hard to leverage into the stance that way. It's not the end of the world, right? You have to make smart decisions. If they're not making smart decisions, you could just go for it. You have a power crush. If they're going to attack you first, then you power crush, right? There's options. But that when you kind of need that counter hit, and if you got that counter hit, you can just do that. There's lots of other choices in there. So forward 2-2 is not your best transition. But the next 4 here are. These are the important ones to remember. Down forward 1-2. You can see that's +14. That's enough to do whatever you want. They can't challenge anything. Go for any move that you feel like in here. 4-4, same deal. +14 into stance. Do whatever you want. The difference here is on block. On block, these are +6. Just the way 1-1 and 2-2 were on hit. So you don't have to worry about landing this. Even if 1-2 gets down forward 1-2 gets blocked, you can still go into your stance, which works really well with how this string series is designed. More on that later. 4-4 is the same thing. However, 4-4 I don't ever recommend you do out of neutral, ever. They're going to duck that. There's no they're going to duck that high. Stick to your punisher. Stick to this as your 12-frame punisher. That way you're always going into stance on hit. But if you want to go for it, this one you can do on block. 4-4 on block into stance is still really good. Back 2 is the same thing. +6 into stance on block. And the real, though, the biggest one is while running 2. While running 2 into stance is +14 itself on block. That's a crazy amount. You can do whatever you want there. That's the way running moves should be, right? While running moves are generally heavily plus, and this one is no exception. So those 4 are the best ones on block. On hit, it's even better. And for the last two, it's even better still. Back two when it hits, that's plus 23. That means these are guaranteed. All of these options out of stance. I can do the 1, I can do the 2, I can do whatever. They're guaranteed. Anytime back two hits and you go in stance, guaranteed damage, which is amazing. This is an incredible move. Right? All kind of good stuff comes out of that. It's on regular hit. Running 2 is the same. Not quite identical, but you can do Phoenix 2-1. You can do, whoops. You can just do the 1 attack, right? These all hit. You don't get the properties from it. Like if you notice back 2 when it hits, I do Phoenix 2-1. Or 2-2, and you get that little animation, right? If I do the same thing on running 2, I don't get any animation because they're knocked on the ground. But the idea is the same. You're getting free hits. So, back 2 and running 2, you get free follow-ups in the stance when you hold forward. And if you don't, and if they get blocked, you still have a huge advantage going into stance. That makes them very invaluable. And on top of that, down forward 1-2 and 4-4 also maintain that advantage on block. So those are the most important ones. Some of the other choices we talked about while standing 4 and while standing 1. Save these for punishers. Only when you got an 11-frame punish do you want to do that transition. Don't do it otherwise. Some of the weird ones, your flight stance, when you fire that little laser beam, when it hits, that takes you into Phoenix Shift, just like that. A little bit weird. As well as the stance in general, when you're just flying around doing your thing, you just press forward and it'll go into that stance. And the other ones are during heat mode. When you have heat activated, you get access to some different strings. Up 1+2. Let you go into stance, and down forward 1-1. It's an extra hit. Down forward 1-1 is 3 hits, but you don't have access to it. Notice there's no extra hit here. When you're in heat mode, you have 1-1. And then that goes into stance. On hit, 14, so it's one of the good mix-up ones. So that's the whole thing. That's a lot to look at, but honestly what you need to know is 1-1 and 2-2 for your simple, like, self-defense or punishment uses. When those land, you can go into stance pretty easily. Down forward 1-2, 4-4 can go into stance on block, and then back 2 and running 2 can go into stance on block, and you get free stuff on hit. That's the gist of it all. This is all in the Google Docs. You can go to refer to the full list at any point. The ones I didn't mention are really weird, and you'll just try them out. Like I'll show you this one. Down forward 2-2-2. That's an automatic Phoenix shift. There's no methodology to it, right? He just does it. So you don't have to really worry about it. It just exists. So, what do you do with this stance? It's pretty versatile. It's got one of everything that it needs. And it's got, like I mentioned before, some low-level mix-up and some heavy-duty stuff. First up is the 1. This is Power Crush. It's not the fastest option in the stance. It's a little on the slow side, and it's -14 because it's a mid Power Crush. That's only there if you think they're going to blow you up. If you're going to go into stance, even if you hit them with 1-1 and you go into stance and they're just going to try to hop kick, right? Because they don't care. You got to be prepared for that sometimes. So if your opponent is really mashing, they're just going to go for stuff, you can Power Crush and then blow them up in return, right? I know that I know that you're going to attack, so I'll just do Power Crush. So Phoenix 1's Power Crush. Phoenix 2, that little guy right there, that has a counter hit property of its own. Bang, you can hit him with that for free. Just on that single counter hit, get out of here. Which is really good, because that's safe. That's all you have to leverage. I talked about the Phoenix 2, Phoenix 4 mix-up. That's a safe mid, and if you get the counter hit, you get a nice follow-up. However, there's 2 other options. There's Phoenix 2-1, which is natural, and there's Phoenix 2-2, which is another natural combo. The difference is basically that the 2, it switches sides. It does that little animation-y thing. It changes sides, and it charges your Zantetsuken meter. And we'll talk about that later, too. They're basically the same thing. One's -12, -13. It's all the same. It's just if you want to switch sides, you can go for the bigger one. But if you want to get the corner, you stick to 2-1. And the nice thing about 2-1 is you do get your counter hit. That becomes a whole combo starter. So you got to leverage a little bit more. If you want to just keep it simple and go for Phoenix 2 and get your counter hit that way, like I can do this. It's 30 damage, whatever. But you're safe if you're wrong. If they just block that, you're still safe. But if you're not worried about that and you want to go for it all, you could do Phoenix 2-1, and if you did get your counter hit, you get a whole combo. The downside is being -12. That's not that bad. I think that's pretty cool all around. So you can make that decision on your own. Keep it simple and just stick with the 2, or go for it all and go for the 2-1, or whatever it is it might be. It's mid-mid, all across the board. Phoenix 3, this is the real one. This is what makes it all worthwhile. Doesn't look like much on its own, but it is a hell sweep in most conventional terms. It's a big low, causes a grip of damage, but on block, it's your ass. It's a stagger block, minus 26. You're going for it all in this mix-up. 3-2. It's just a basic hell sweep, and you get your doggo attack in there. And 3-1 plus 2 does the floor break effect, and that also charges your Zentetsuken. So they're basically the same thing again, right? It's just you can choose which ender you want based on a particular situation. If you want to break the floor, it's 1 plus 2. If you want to switch sides, it's 2-2, right? That's all it is. So that's your heavy low mix-up. It's worth it because it's going to annoy them all the times you're doing 1-1 in the stance, 2-2 in the stance, all this stuff in the stance all day. They got to be wary of getting hell sweeped. Hell sweeped is the worst fate. You don't want to get hell sweeped. Trust me. But if you want to keep it simple again, you just have Phoenix 4. So much less risky low. I think it's still pretty bad. 13's fine. 13's cool. This also has a counter hit. You can heat engage off of that counter hit. Really cool. You can just do damage off of that counter hit. That's very good. It's not safe, but it's simple. It's much less risk. So like I said, Phoenix 2, Phoenix 4. Very, very low risk mix-up. Or Phoenix 2-1, Phoenix 3, high risk mix-up. You can do whatever you want there. Very cool options. You have a heat engager. 1 plus 2. That's a heat engager out of the stance. Safe on block. It's a mid-string. Safe on block. So that's really cool. A safe heat engager out of stance, why not, right? It's not the fastest, but if you're going into stance of +6, they can interrupt that. If you're doing like this and you're going into stance of +14, they cannot mess with that. That's a guaranteed chance, and it's safe on block. That's good stuff all around. And the last one that really makes this dangerous and not just a mix-up tool is 3 plus 4. That great big kick is the slowest of them all, but it's mid, it goes over lows, it's homing, it's +7 on block. So if you think they don't care about your mix-ups, they're just going to stand there and block and take it, you're going to make them do something by either hitting them with the lows, and if I don't care, I'm just going to stand and block, you start doing that to them and do it all over again, right? Go low that time. That's a great way to just start your pressure all over again, but it is the slowest option. So even at +14, if you do this, they can interrupt that. But you're doing this when you think they're going to just stand there, right? If you think they're going to stand there and take it, do some plus frames. If they're going to stand there, do some lows. If they're going to be proactive and duck all the time, use your 2-1. Use the heat engager, whatever it might be. So there's an answer for everything. It's up to you how you use them. But there's a tool for everything, every situation you need. If your opponent's jabby, if your opponent tries to sidestep, if your opponent ducks, you got an answer for all of that built into that stance. So leveraging that correctly is like 80% of the advanced Clive gameplay. That's why it took like 13 minutes to go over all of that. It's really important, and it's simple on the surface, but when you see the applications, like the difference between hit and block, there's a lot of gold in there that you really need to learn eventually. His other stances include this Wings of Light, which is kind of hard to apply. I don't see any practical use for it. It's basically a combo tool. The only way to go into it is 3-3, goes right into flight, or down forward 1-4-3. None of these hit on counter hits. They're all not natural combos. You're -18 and then some in the air waiting to get blown up. I'm not quite sure what this is for other than just a gimmick. You can use it in combos pretty well. It's got some cool stuff in it. So as far as what it does, there's basically just the one, that little pew-pew beam. When it hits, they Phoenix shift in. Like that. If it gets blocked, he stays in the air. You have a 2-beam, which doesn't look like it's all that much, but that hits an airborne opponent like this. Unibeam. Look at that. That was 69 damage. All I did was a launcher, 3-3 to go into stance, and then press 2. I got 70 damage. That's what it's for. It's for combos that are super duper easy. Really easy mode combos that show off one of his skills from his game. No questions asked. That's kind of all that it does. 3 is a little backflip. That's a launcher, should that ever occur. And then 4 by itself, you're just floating around chilling, you can press 4 to go into your Phoenix stance. But what this really does is 3-4 by itself, when you press that to go into the stance, that low parries. So you get a whole combo off of that. It causes an automatic tornado when that low parry is active. And even if you're just standing there floating and chilling, it's still low parries anytime they go near it. So that's kind of cool that it does that, but it's hard to use. So just keep in mind, if you feel like I want a low parry, I think they're going to low, let me just low parry. You could do that. and it might be okay. Otherwise, it's a combo tool. It's really good at the wall. When you get stuck to the wall and you can do this 3-3 in the Unibeam, that's really good. It's a great damage beginner combo tool first, and a weird little gimmick second. That's about it. And the final one's not really even much of a stance. I wouldn't even have thought about it if they didn't put in the move list like a stance, called Updraft, which is basically just this little jump. You have like a 2D jump. Your little wind thingy makes you jump. The only string in the game that he has that lets you do this is down back 1+2, 1. It doesn't do that on its own. It has to be an airborne opponent. So now I do down back 1+2, 1. He flies up. He's in Updraft right there. So you can use your Updraft moves. That's a combo thing again. You could use this in a lot of your combos, but that's it. You can do these normally. There's no stance to speak of necessarily other than that. So you just press up and you're in that float. So you can just jump and then press 1. Or you can press up and 1 together and he'll just do basically the same thing, right? The characters have like up forward +3 little jump kicks and up forward +4. You can do that. Or you could just jump and then press 3. It's up to you. So there's a 1, does this. You get a little follow-up on the ground. It's not safe on block, but I don't know. I guess if you're out here just like kind of chilling, you can just throw that out there. Who cares, right? Updraft 2-2 is a little bit more damage. This is one you're going to see in combos. That causes a tornado. So when you're in Updraft, like that, automatically, there's a tornado attack for you. That's what that's for. Updraft 3 is a safe high kick. And Updraft 4 is another safe high kick for whatever they're worth. I don't know. They're just there. It's kind of a weird gimmick. I'm not quite... You can use it in combos. There's applications, but it's very weird. See, you can use that, but... Oh, that's it. That's pretty much it. The Wings of Light and Updraft are mostly combo gimmicks. And I don't think there's a ton of applications out there, but they do exist if you want to play around with it one day, see what you can find out. Who knows? Next up, let's talk about Heat Mode. It's not one of the better ones in the game, in my opinion. It doesn't change his overall game plan. It doesn't really give him like access to new stuff. It just kind of buffs some moves that he already has. Some of them are pretty cool. One of them is excellent. The rest of them are just like, yeah, that's there. I mean, I'm not too worried about it. The first one is it adds Ifrit abilities. Basically, that just adds like fiery sword stuff. Forward 2-2-1. That big swipe, that's new. He can't do that unless he's in Heat Mode. But he can charge that up and get combos from it. And if he charges up and they block, it does that window shatter guard break. And he can get a heat engager for free. So if they block that, it's +13. And he can do this for free and get all that damage. So that's a forward 2-2 always existed, but 2-2-1 is exclusive to Heat Mode. And if it's a counter hit, even in you're in Heat Mode, you can do forward 2-2-1 and it's guaranteed. So that little addition is very nice. Otherwise, the rest of them are kind of just some extra flashy additions. There's down forward 1 and there's no other 1 follow up there. But when you're Heat Mode, you get down forward 1-1. Causes that thing. You can go in stance from it, or you can do all this long string stuff. And if you finish that whole string, they're all safe on block. Down forward 1-1-1 and down forward 1-1-2-1. The only thing that's in there is that 2 causes a high. And I guess maybe your opponent could duck that high and try to get out of it. Otherwise, I got to stand there and just eat this all day. Right? Like, that's all that. It's not a ton of damage. It might do some chip, but, like, that's all that they do. You just get these cool things. You can use them in combos a little bit. That one ends in a tornado. And you get up 1+2, which normally does nothing. When you're in Heat Mode, up 1+2 is basically the second 2 hits. So you can do that. Same thing, just a different timing version of it. So that's what it means by adds Ifrit abilities. When you're in Heat Mode, you get access to those. 1-1-1-1-1, bang, bang, bang. So those are kind of cool. They're not amazing, but they're neat. If you're in Heat Mode, you might as well use them. And the other one is Torgal's Wave is powered up. Torgal's Wave is the doggo. String's like 3-2, bang, bang. Where's the dog? It's a weird string. I don't like it at all because that dog never hits. The computer's not set to block. You see when it is. He always blocks that dog. Even on counter hit, blocks the dog. Counter hit by itself, he still blocks the dog. I don't get what that's about. But all the other choices of it, while standing 3, for example, bang, doggo gets powered up. And your Phoenix 3-2, that big hell sweep. You get extra damage in Heat Mode because of the dog. That's all that does, just damage, nothing else. So that's all you get from heat mode. They're not remarkable, but it's kind of cool. You know, it looks neat when he does it, so you might as well use them. As far as the heat engagers go, every character has 5. They all do the same thing in combo, give or take. In Clive's case, he has 3 of them that launch, the other ones don't. The 1+2 we talked about already. That just causes the skid. You can do that. Down forward 3-1. That's a guaranteed follow-up. Same thing with Phoenix 1+2. All you get is the skid and a grounded follow-up. The other ones, forward 2-2-2, which you kind of need to counter hit. That one gets you a whole combo. Damn it. Forward 2-2-2, which you see is not a natural combo. You need to be in heat, and you need that counter hit, or they need to flinch or whatever. Forward 2-2-2, there's your heat engager, and you get a whole combo from there. That's a little tough one to apply, whereas forward 1+2, way better. That's one of your best moves all around. You get a combo from that in heat mode. Forward 1+2 is a safe mid. It tracks. It's long range. It's incredible. You're going to use that a lot. The last one is sidestep 2-1. All right, when you heat engage that, you get a whole combo from it. And when I say this is hit confirmable, I mean this is hit confirmable. You have all day to see that hit. If you're wrong, it's -15. You don't want to go. We don't do that. You can see all day when that 2 hits and just press the 1. It's a really, really useful thing to do. You're going to want to learn that. Hit confirm this all day, and you get heat engager, and you get a combo off of that one. So his heat engagers are pretty solid set all around. He does have a heat smash out of Phoenix, for whatever that's worth. Ground break, that's cool, I guess. On top of his regular heat smash, which is a straightforward one. Good damage, you know, just like the rest. So his heat mode is not remarkable, but it's there. Use it. It's still a good feature all around. Your heat mode stuff is good, so you don't change your game plan. You don't like go for heat immediately. You just use it whenever it comes up, right? You get extra damage from here and there. Who cares, right? If you don't need to survive, but if you're going to have it, your chances of survival are better. So might as well. And the last unique section I want to talk about are what I call mini combos. We mentioned how back 2 on hit, you get guaranteed follow-up. That's all I mean. You're not getting launchers and bounds and juggles and full combos and stuff. These are just guaranteed follow-ups. I feel like these are part of your move list more than they are combos. I just feel like, oh, back 2 has these extensions, right? Whenever it hits, you just pick whichever one that you do. While running 2, it has these extensions. Kind of the way I think about it, right? If you're going to do these moves, be prepared to do the follow-up afterwards, or else you're kind of wasting the effort, right? They put it in here for a reason. So I call these little mini combos. You want to learn those. They're a little situational for this character. They made some odd choices, but a lot of them are good. I just talked about the 2 best. While running 2, on hit, you can do several different Phoenix options. Anything you want, basically. Phoenix 4, right there, 32 damage. This is in the dock. I have all the damage that you get from each of your choices. Phoenix 1, the Phoenix 2 strings, Phoenix 4. They're all guaranteed on that hit. You just don't get any properties because they're on the ground. You don't get the floor break or the animations or anything. So they don't do a ton of damage because they're grounded. However, back 2, they're still on their feet when you hit them with the Phoenix. So hitting them with Phoenix 2-1 looks like that. And hitting with back 2, Phoenix 1 looks exactly the same, right? It doesn't change what they are. They're still grounded. So you get way more damage off of this, and you can do anything you want. The only things that don't work are going to be the 3+4. Everything else connects, all of it. Phoenix, 3, 1+2 for your floor break, right? And then Unibeam, you know, the choices are endless. You can do anything you want. Again, damage is listed. You can use this to change sides. For example, if you do Phoenix 2-2, that switches sides for you. You can break the floor with the one that we just saw, and you can heat engager. You can do 1+2. You go to heat engager from this, which is very good. Some of the other ones, not as good. We briefly talked about the counter hit on while standing 1-2. It's free damage, right? That's a chunk of damage. That's 54 damage if they get caught by that. So that's why I like that so much. While standing 1 in the stance is weird and not super practical, but if you set it up right and you get this counter hit, that's really good. It's just a little bit fast. You got to recognize it. Oh, there it is. And go for my little health switch. That's worth it. So you're going to figure that way in your game plan at some point. Come back and check the dock every so often. Like, oh yeah, I forgot that even existed. There it is. Some other ones may be good, maybe not as good. 2-2-1, not a natural combo. On counter hit of the first hit, it is, but on counter hit of the third hit, you can do that. You can do back 4. That's basically it. I haven't found too much else that's going to reach from that move. Most of the time, like back 4 and down 1+2 are pretty interchangeable. So they do about the same damage, same results. 2-2-1. That's a little bit slower in this case. That's like 2 frames slower, so it might not work. So back 4 is your go-to there. Another one is Updraft 1. If you're going to use this, like, oh, I forgot, let's try this out. You can run up and back 4, but it's kind of far away, right? There it is, back 4. Down 1+2 is not going to work here. It's a little too slow, so that's another one. You just dash up and back 4 if you're in range. Next up is counter hit Phoenix 2. We talked about this has a safer path. You don't risk anything by going for this, but if you do get the counter hit, you get a free follow-up. You can hit it with back 4. In this case, you can do down 1+2 there. And you can do 1+2, the heat engage. You don't get the heat, but it's still there. So those are different choices. About the same damage. 1+2 is a little bit more. But if you want to just stick to back 4 for all these situations, that's fine. Oh, got my counter hit, back 4. And that's if you don't want to leverage the idea of going for the full Phoenix 2-1, because that counter hits a whole bunch. Phoenix 2 by itself, quick little follow-up, pretty nice. Can't complain about that. And that goes well with Phoenix 4. Also a counter hit. This one is +13. So you can do while standing 4, you go right into another Phoenix if you want. This can get wild in some cases. All right, you can do lots of stuff with that. Or you can do while standing 1-2, get free damage in a wall splat, or heat engager. While standing 1+2 is the same thing. 13 frame, connects on their feet, you get the heat engager off of this version of it. So counter hit Phoenix 4 is still fairly risky, but it's not bad. For what you're getting, -13 is very low risk. So that Phoenix 2 versus Phoenix 4 mix-up that we talked about in the beginning, that's really strong on its own. Very cool stuff there. The last ones are heat mode, and you have your new forward 2-2-1 string. If they get hit by just that, you can go for this hell sweep. They can tech roll that backwards. They can just roll back and they'll be fine. It's not forced like the other situations we saw. So if they forget to do that, you get the free follow-up there. So heat mode, forward 2-2-1. See on block, it does not stay. The whole string on counter hit is guaranteed. So forward 2-2-1 results in that same thing. If they forget to tech roll, free damage. So as long as that one connects, you get that, but they can tech roll again. They're probably going to know that. Just remember that it's there if it doesn't. However, the cool thing is if they block. Forward 2-2-1, charge it up, it does that screen break thing. And that's a guaranteed 1+2. That's +13 when that happens. Boom, boom, boom. And you get all that damage on top of it. So you're getting the 13, they take 13 damage from blocking that, and you get 32 more if you do the 1+2 and spend your heat engager on it. You don't have to. Since you're already in heat mode, like, you could just stick with that. You can just do that and go about your day. Or you could finish off your heat and then cash it out for a ton of damage. So that's on block when you get that move in heat mode. It's on normal hit, or charged up on normal hit, it's a launcher. Charged up on block, you get a heat engager, and on any other regular hit, you can get a follow-up if they forget to tech roll. So that's a pretty far down the well as far as his toolkit goes, but that's one of the good ones. That's a really good addition for heat mode. So those are all pretty decent. You're going to find some opportunities for all those. You just got to remember them, right? You just got to remember, oh yeah, 2-2-1 has that third hit property. I should do that more often. But while running 2 and back 2 are indispensable. We're going to use those all day. So is Phoenix 2, Phoenix 4. That mix up, both have counter hit properties and follow-ups. You're going to learn that and use it extensively. So those are your unique character traits, the things that make Clive who he is. Let's move on to how do you play? What's your game plan? What does neutral look like? What is he good at? And the short answer, he's a really simple, straightforward, beginner type character. We saw things like the 3-3 into that unibeam, super easy high combo damage. You wanted to do that and move on, you're good. You can play really basic Tekken with this guy's set, but that set of moves has a lot of little wrinkles in it that lets you get even more out of it. Once you learn how to use these strings like 1-1 or 2-2 or down forward 1-2, stuff like that, when you use those well and you've mastered what happens when they get blocked, when they hit, or when they counter hit, and then doing the right thing appropriately, like for example, if 1-1 gets blocked, do nothing. But if down forward 1-2 gets blocked, you can still go into stance there. It's okay. You've got enough advantage to work with. Whereas if back 2 hits, you get free stance. But if back 2 gets blocked, you can still go into stance for your mix-up. Stuff like that. Down forward 1-2, you could, if that hits, you could just finish up the string like that, for example. Counter hits, etc. You might want to just go for, 2-2-1 if you see that counter hit and just go for it. Oh, I knew I got the counter hit. Bang. If I didn't, I just got a regular hit, go for stance. That's the key to the character. You got to learn that. You can stick with the basics and not extend yourself too far, but once you learn how these all work and when to throw in that stance, when to go for the mix-up, and how to use the stance itself is pretty powerful. The low-level mix-up, the high-level mix-up, the power crush to defend yourself, the frame trap to start offense over again, etc. Those are what's important. So he doesn't have a ton of basic frame traps like, Dragunov running 2 to keep you going, but they're good. That one out of the stance is really good. And some other basic things that he has, they do the job. That's all you really need to do out of it. He's flashy in terms of what he does, but his gameplay is not flashy at all. It's really straightforward. You can just add more wrinkles to it as you want to. So the Phoenix Shift is very powerful. You need that at all levels. Once you get good at it and you use what it does, it's excellent. If your opponent is really tight, you want to stay tight too and not take huge risks. If your opponent's a gambler, take advantage of that. Read the situation, anticipate your opponent, flow like water, Out at mid-range, he's actually still really good because so many of his moves have this silly range in the first place. You can't talk enough about forward 1+2. Look how far away that still hits them from, That's a gigantic move. But at mid-range, some of your other moves tend to stick out a little bit. Stuff like down back 2-1. I like that move to mess with their timing. It's kind of cool. It's not safe on block, but you can push them back with that. It's interesting. I like it. So mid-range, a lot of things start to take a little bit better shape than they did normally. But mid-range is cool. You're very good at keep out. Forward 2, SWAT flies to keep coming at you, You want to get back in, you got an excellent running 2, and you've got a dash, right? You just, now I'm in. Guess what's up? So mid-range is cool. He got a couple of standout moves, and he doesn't have to panic. He doesn't have to, I got to get back in before I get... Don't worry about it. Play at your own pace. Keep it simple. The big weakness is getting sidestepped. Most of this basic stuff does not track well at all. There's a few things that you're going to use, like back 4 tracks to his right a little bit. Down forward 2 tracks to his left. Left is the weak side for the most part. So if they're just doing things like, you want to do this, you're doing a jab... You're doing jab and then down 1, right? That doesn't track. If they sidestep after your jab, they're going to hit you. But next time you do jab down forward 2, that'll hit them because that tracks to their left, to his left. Nothing else does that. Obviously, there's homing moves, right? There's straight up homing moves. But as far as your moves and their tracking, it's not strong. There are a couple, and you could use those if you want to. You just got to watch out for that stuff. So if you have an opponent that wants to sidestep out of mix-ups, right? Like they get hit by 1-1 in this and they want to sidestep. You have a homing move. That's going to hit them. But it's slow and they can just block. It's fine. It's no big deal. You got a homing move to back that up. But if you want to just throw out jabs, like 2-2 stuff, you've got a homing move. You're going to have to use them because they are going to know to step you. And out here, it can pay off better because if you're using forward 2 to swat flies, for example, that gets stepped real easy. So you got to be aware of that. Forward 1+2 is kind of the panacea for all of that. It tracks both sides pretty well. So if you're worried about that, just overuse this. It's a safe mid heat engager with crazy good range and good tracking. So that sort of just covers all of your bases, right, in one little move. And crouching stuff is good. You're crouching while standing 3 is a good homing move. Full crouch, that's hard to step that. Those are pretty solid. So it's really the neutral game, your pressure. The more advanced your pressure gets, the more vulnerable you can be to sidestepping. So make sure you check that, and make sure you pin them down long range with forward 1+2. That's your biggest weakness, and that's a pretty simple way to cover it. Defensively, again, keep it simple. 1-1 and 2-2 are really good to try to shut them up. And if you caught this counter hit, counter poking them, they keep pressing and pressing and pressing, and you end up with 2-2, counter hit, bang, just like that. Now it's your turn. So defense, you want to use your basic pokes, and you've got a godlike parry. We'll get more to that later, but that's your defensive game plan. But that's it. He's a really simple, fundamental character. So if you want to add some more layers to it, we'll talk about that now and what it is you can do to get better and better and get cooler, flashier stuff out of this guy. So to that end, I want to talk about your neutral toolkit. I'm not going to cover every single move, most of them, because it's not a gigantic list, but I just want to talk about the whys and what you do with it. So the first simple level of game plan is high, mids, and lows, right? They got to duck to block lows, and they got to stand up to block mids. We also have highs. You got quick, fast highs, and there's some decent stuff. Your entire 1 series, 1-1, you can go in a stance on hit. 1-2 just knocks down as your 10-frame Punisher. 1 forward 2, counter hit, it's natural combo on counter hit. It's +1. So in the middle of all this stuff, you can just basically throw that out for free and take a +1. They're super far away, right? They're downtown, but you can do forward 2 and you're right on them with a little tiny bit of advantage. It's a tough one, but it's there. So the 1-1 series is really good all around. Flexibility is the name of the game. Like I said, you want to start using the stance more, go for it. You want to use your frame traps more, there they are. So 1-1 is really good. 2-1 is the same stuff. 2-1 is a nice knockdown. 2-2 is a little simpler. 2-2 goes into stance. 2-2 on counter hit goes into the follow-up, etc. You got 2-2-2 and 2-2-1 +2, all that stuff. Right? There's crazy options. These strings are plentiful and they look similar. The difference between 1-1 and 2-2, down forward, like it's really hard for them to distinguish what you're doing a lot of times visually. You got to mix up the rhythm. It's nice that 1-1 and 2-2, they're all like 2 hits. That's also easy for them to remember that. So you got to keep it fresh and use these in different ways all the time. Keep mixing it up. Back to guaranteed you get Phoenix stuff. They block this move. Normally it's 4, what a big deal. But if you go into stance, you get your stance mix up, right? So they're always living in fear of that. All day long, do back 2 and go for your stance stuff. You know what to do. Down back 1 is one of your homing moves that's a high. This is pretty good, safe on block. And if it hits, you get a nice chunk of damage there. That's 42 damage. Hits as a counter hit though, a little bit less damage, but it's a combo. So that's a good move all around. That's one of your better highs. 17 frame homing move. Not the best range in the world. Pretty good though, it's deceptive. It's real deceptive actually, I didn't think it was quite that good. It's at least 2.5 backdashes. So write that one down, that's one of your better moves. And your other highs, this up forward 3 stuff and up forward 4, whatever they're worth. You can see 3 knocks down and 4 doesn't. They're both safe on block. As far as I can tell, I did the testing. When you land, you can block, it's fine. So I don't know what these are for, but they do exist. It's kind of hard to use that updraft. Like we talked about that and you have a follow-up there, but I don't know how good that really is, but it's there. That's all the highs. That's it. It's the entire arsenal of highs. Everything else the character does is a mid. The 1 series and the 2 series and that homing move. That's your highs. Everything else is mid. Big, heavy metal sword mids. So what do your mids do? Your mids usually leverage a much higher part of your offense, but your quick, balanced variety of pressure is still really good here. Forward 2 enters the game now. Forward 2-1 on block is also plus. That's really good. Forward 2-2 might not be a combo, but on counter hit, forward 2-2, it is. You get a heat engager, etc., etc. All that stuff is good. And like I said in the beginning, once you learn what to do on block, on counter hit, etc., all the doors open up. So forward 2 series is really good. It ties in with the highs. All that stuff is just sword, sword, dash, 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 sword, dash, right? Once you learn it, they don't know what's going on. You should be in control. Next up is 1+2, your 13 frame safe heat engager. Excellent move. This is your 13 frame punish. You go for that. You got your mix up. You got whatever you want. Forward 1+2 is only a little bit slower at 16, but this is a launching heat engager. And it tracks and has got huge range and is still safe. This is easily your best move. It's in the running for one of the best moves in the game, probably. It's fantastic. You can't argue with that. Really good. What do we got? Oh, how about down forward 1-2-1? That's a natural combo. That's your 14 frame Punisher. Once you see it hits, you can do this in neutral and then bang. If it gets blocked, you can still go into stance because we talked about that's one of the good ones on block. Down forward 1-2 on block into stance is still +6. You can still run your Phoenix 2-4 mix up there on block. That's really good. And on hit, you confirm into knockdown. That's excellent stuff. Really good there. Down forward 4 is next up in like the move list. This is just generic pokey guy. It doesn't do anything. It's just poke. Little on the slow side. You'll notice this is 14 and down forward 1 are also 14. That's on the slow side. But this character is kind of like that. He doesn't have the fastest set of pokes. They're a teeny bit slower, but they have these wrinkles I keep talking about. That's the trade-off there. Next up in your mids, we talked about down back 2. A little bit better out at mid-range, but that charging up ability, I like that. -13 is not great. You're not getting a whole lot for risking that, but when you charge it up, you're that. It's -3 and you're downtown. I think that's a really good thing to kind of like reset stuff, especially when they're coming at you. Nope, you stay out there. I like that move just for that purpose. Messes with timing, good spacing. So those are your best set of like pressure-based tools and your simple offense, poke, capitalize on stuff. There's a set of mids you use to get huge rewards from just doing it. Go for it all the time. Very low risk, if any. Just do these things. You don't even need a game plan. You don't need to set them up, but if you set them up, they work better. That's stuff like while running 2, right? We talked about this, can't get enough. Plus on block, you get to continue offense. On hit, you get guaranteed. Back 4, however, is a safe counter hit mid launcher. That's pretty good. You like this, right? You can't complain about a safe mid counter hit launcher. Not the fastest. 18 is not ultra fast. Down 1+2 is about the same thing. 22, a little slow. But it's the same. It's a counter hit safe mid launcher. Those are pretty good tools. You do want to set them up, right? You do want to do things like, 2-2 on hit, then go for that. They're just not the fastest counter hits. Like I said, counter hit is not his thing. He's got that parry. So we'll come back to that. But remember these. They're still pretty good. Forward 4-2 when you're swatting flies out in mid-range. That's also a counter hit launcher if you do catch them doing that. So again, there's no risk to these things. They might be able to sidestep that, but you're keeping them honest. Remember, you're playing the game smart and you're keeping them from stepping. So that'll smack counter hits coming at you right in the face. And your 2 sidestep moves. Sidestep 1+2 is a natural launcher, and it's +2 on block. So if they're just standing there doing nothing, +2 is pretty solid. If you get a clean evasion, if you got a clean sidestep, bang, full combo from that. Super good. Or you can sidestep 2-1. We talked about how hit confirmable that is. There's such a long delay in there. You have all day to confirm that. So that's really good. Heat engager that launches, that's no risk because you're hit confirming it at a sidestep. So do those all day. You're running 2, back 2, down 1+2 Ramu, sidestep moves. Do those all day. They're practically risk-free and they have huge rewards. The rest of your mids are not great. You can throw them in, but I don't see a ton of purpose. They're kind of outclassed. One of those things is forward 3. It's a normal hit launcher that jumps over lows, but it's -14. I don't know. I don't think you need that necessarily. For that speed, a startup at 20, you could do that. Down back 4 is a better alternative. Back 4 is a better alternative. I don't know. I just don't like forward 3 that much. It's kind of neat looking, but it's not a great application. If it were safer, maybe. I don't know. Down back 1+2-1. It's the same like green effect. Is the only moves that do that green effect? I don't think any of them are good. Down back 1+2 is not safe on block. Down back 1+2-1, also not safe on block. Like there's nothing to gain there. This is a combo tool. When it hits an airborne opponent, you fly up in the air with them. That's all that's good for, basically. I don't think it's a neutral tool. I think it's kind of whack. It doesn't really do anything, but it's there. You find a spot for it, hooray. You got Zantetsuken. When it's charged level 5, you die. It's 1+4, and it just does that big swipe. That swipe is -15. It's slow, and it's launch punishable. But use this in combos, basically. Once it's powered up and you land a combo, you can hit it with that and cash out a gajillion damage. But that's powered up to level 5. It doesn't do anything when it's not powered up. Like level 1, it's a swing. It's just a regular sword swing that does nothing. Using it powers up that gauge. Once it's level 2 and above, it turns into that super to start doing more and more damage. So it's kind of tough to find uses for that, honestly, right? I'm not sure what they are. I feel like they're build it up all game and then finish the round by just blasting them at the wall with this. That's kind of it. It's kind of a unique little quirk, and there's a ton of your moves that build up that gauge just by using them. So it's going to happen naturally. Just take a look. Like, ooh, I'm at level 4. Let me just, finish a combo and do this for a change, right? And you get 99 million damage. It's worth it. So it's kind of tough to work into your game plan. The last set of moves are stuff I just don't like at all. 3-2. I don't get why the dog never hits. They always block the dog. 3-3 and down forward 1-4-3. Those strings that float you in the air. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. Don't do that. I don't like it. And 4-4. They're going to duck that 100% of the time. That's going to get ducked. You're going to get launched. Save this for punishing. This is your 12-frame punisher, nothing else. It's not a good neutral tool in my opinion. So with all of that, you're just using these mids fancy-free, and you're getting huge rewards. You're using your quick, fast little pokes to set up the pressure and the heat engagers and the dashes. You need lows. You got to have lows to make them duck occasionally. And your lows are pretty good. Down 1 is pretty solid. It's plus on hit. It goes under highs. It stays crouching. You can do other stuff from it. That's a really good offensive low. I like that one a lot. Down back 4 is considerably riskier, but this is a Lars down back 4. It's a counter hit launcher. It's got pretty good range. It goes under highs. I've never seen a Lars player afraid to use their down back 4, and neither should Clive players. Do this, and if you catch your counter hit, it's awesome. Otherwise, it's +4. I mean, that's +4 on hit by itself. 19 frames. It is not reactable. You cannot block this on reaction. Forget about it. If they blocked it, it's because they guessed. I promise you. So doing that, having 4+ frames, or maybe a counter hit, that's awesome. Those are good lows right away. Down forward 3-1 is not a good low. This hell sweep is 30 frames, as you can see. They will block that on reaction every time. This move sucks. The only thing you use this for, in my opinion, is your grounded hit. Your skids, that's it. Otherwise, I don't like this. It's a homing move, but they could just block anyway. They could stop sidestepping and then block you. That's how bad this is. Your other lows are Phoenix 4, the low-risk one that has some nice counter-hit properties, or Phoenix 3-2, the high-risk one that does way more damage, and 3-1+2 that breaks floors. So your Phoenix lows are also pretty good. A simple low pokey one, and all the marbles great big one. That's a good set of lows. That's all there is, and you don't really need any more. A good offensive one, a good kind of like self-defense counter-hitty one, and your stance ones. Awesome stuff. As far as crouching, there's not a ton in here. There's one extra low in your full crouch down forward 2. But from full crouch is not impressive. Your while standing set, we talked about 1 and 4 in the Punishers. How if you use them as a Punisher, you can go into stance. Do not go into stance otherwise if you're not sure. Do not get while standing 4 blocked into stance. Not worth it. You can do while standing 1-2 if you want. It's not safe, but it's kind of cool. And again, I talked about how much I like that, the way it fits the mindset. While standing 1, it's options, and while standing 2, you can go for it. While standing 3 is good. That's a nice chunk of damage, and it's a doggo move. So your crouch options are as basic as hell, but you've got a good low in there, and you've got your good homing mids. You don't go into crouch a lot. Down 1 and down forward 3, which you should not do, those are basically the only ways to go into low. Your Phoenix 4 leaves you crouching. So you can do that other low. That's about it. He's not a jump over lows or go under highs type of character whatsoever. So crouch game is not huge, but it's there. It's basic, it's Punisher. You got a little bit extra if you need it. It's just enough to get its job done, so it's not a huge weakness for him. So that's high, mid, low, what you do for the basic classic form of mix-up, but people can move sideways in this game. So we talked about that as a big weakness for him, so you gotta deal with that. Down forward 3, as I just said, is homing, but I do not recommend it ever. Down back 1 is way better. This is a pretty good homing move. It's just a high, it's only drawback. But on hit, it does a grip of damage. On counter hit, it does a combo starter. So like that's awesome. That's all your homing needs. Back 1 is mid, but it's not safe. I feel like a lot of characters like Lars we just talked about, he has this move and it is safe. Causes that spinny wall splat and everything. But in Clive's case, this is also a counter hit launcher. So I think that's why they made it unsafe, because it does that also. So pretty good stuff. Yeah, that's worth being -13, I suppose. If you want to stick to a mid. Otherwise, down back 1. Awesome. That's really good homing. And we just mentioned while standing 3 from your crouch. Not the fastest, but it's got good range. So if you're doing, this and you think they're stepping, that's a really good way to catch it. I like that move. Just because it's a doggo move, if nothing else. Bang. Pretty cool stuff. And your stance, Phoenix 3+4 has that. If they're trying to sidestep your stance, you keep them honest with this. If they sidestep and block, this is +7 on block, so you still win. So the homing set is really good. Sidestep is a weakness, but the homing moves he has to deal with that are really good. So it's about playing a simple game plan, dealing with your opponent well. That's all it is. We mentioned that mid-range is pretty solid. It doesn't change a lot, but some things get a little bit better. Like down back 2-1 I mentioned. Out at this range, God, look at that. Just look at that. You stay out there. No, out there. And then you can charge this up, and I like that a lot. It really messes with people. It's one of my favorites. Again, tracking not good. Just beware. Same with forward 2. Swatting those flies at range. Tracking no good. While running 2, a little bit tough to use out here on a moment's notice. It's kind of slow and got a huge wind up, but it's good for what it is. Tracking no good. You got to keep aware of that. These moves out here, they take one little sidestep. You might be kind of vulnerable there. So the answer to that, as we said, forward +2. This gets even better at mid-range because it covers your sidestep weakness and still hits them from 3.5 miles away. Fantastic stuff. And the other one is down back 4. I think it's even better at long ranges because it'll stop them in their tracks coming at you. You get your counter hit a little more frequently, and you might not get punished as hard if you're further away. It's hard to say. That's it. But when you're out here in mid-range, some of those moves stand out. That's about it. Everything else is the same, right? Forward 2-2, that's the same thing. You're doing the same stuff out here. It's just those get a little bit better. If you're out keeping the range, you want to whiff punish, right? You're at this point now where they might just not be able to reach you. Like you think they're going to come at you and you keep backdashing, they miss. Down forward 2 is pretty much your only whiff punisher. It's not a Noctis down forward 2. That second hit only comes out on contact. It's just this, which is pretty solid. It's got decent range. That's a good whiff punisher. Forward 1+2 covers your other bases. That's pretty much all that you need at that regard. If you're a mid-range and you want to get back in, that's a problem that solves itself. You're running 2. Running 2 is really good with your on-block pressure, on-hit follow-ups, etc. Or just your stance, right? You can just Phoenix shift in, do that. It's like, that's going to catch people on the feet all day. Bang, just like that. Bang, mid. Bang, this in your face, right? +7, let's go. So getting back in is dangerous, right? He can just come flying back at you at a moment's notice. And there you are in the little pokey stance game all over again. Being out here is almost a breather for them at the same time. Because your 2-2 in the stance is not as dangerous out here. You're worried about getting smacked by great big clubs out here, this guy. So you jumping right back in on him with this is, you know, going to be working. It's all about playing your opponent. He's a fundamental character that plays a good fundamental game. So the more you can anticipate and read your opponent, the better Clive works. Let's take a look at the heat system again real quick and just what it does, which is almost nothing, to be honest. Like I said, if you have it, use it. If you're going into heat, remember now you have this move and all the 1-1-1 stuff. Those are good. They're just fine. They're not all like natural combos. I can see he's blocking halfway through, but they're safe, so whatever. I mean, find a place to use them if you want to. I don't think they're going to work at the wall, right? You're going to run out of hits and you can't hit them all, but use it while it lasts. It's cool stuff, but it's forward 2-2-1. That's what enters your game plan in heat mode. Normal hits, you get a follow-up if they don't tech roll. You charge it up. If they block, you get this for free. And you charge it up and they don't block, it's a launcher. So forward 2-2-1 is the real jewel of heat mode. And all of your doggo moves power up. So 2-2-2 is not a natural combo, not even on counter hit. But because you have 2-2 stance and all of these things, if they happen to get hit by that third hit. Oh man, let's look at the range. That's what I'm saying. Look at the range of this character, even when you're not trying. There you go. That last hit is an automatic doggo. The dog hits them and you Phoenix shift right into position. That's there. And in heat mode, all the dog attacks get powered up. You can use this in the air. It's useful in combos, I guess. 2-2-2, dog into Phoenix shift. Boom, boom. So that gets powered up. Those get better. Your Phoenix Hell Sweep gets better, and your while standing 3, which is already good, gets even better. Was that 35 damage? 40 damage. Like 40 damage is a lot from a safe homing mid out of crouch, right? That's really cool. But otherwise, heat mode doesn't add anything to your game plan. It's just a little bit of extra pepper on your steak, you know? It's there, use it. So that is your neutral tool set. That's all of your high, mids, lows, your pokes, your shifts into stances, your homing moves to keep yourself safe, your mid-range to catch a breather and go running back at them, all of that. How does offense work? What do you actually do with all of these stances? We've kind of like danced around it all. It's just a matter of putting it all together. So the first step in offense comes from frame advantage. Basically, anytime you hit him with something, like 2-2 is -1. That you kind of want to go into stance if that hits. But 2 by itself, look at that, it's +7. +7 is a huge amount of frame advantage. If I pop you with a 2, I do that, right? I'm fishing for counter hits. I want to make you make a bad decision. It's my turn. And if you try to take my turn, I'm going to pop you for it. So frame advantage is good in that regard. You get that off of pretty much any little small hit that lands, right? Down 1 being plus, that's an awesome tool. 2 is that, all this stuff, etc., etc. Right, that knocks you down. That's good stuff. 16 is enough for you to continue your offense. They can't try to challenge you there. It'd be silly. So you don't always get to hit them, though. Right? These are moves that are on hit. Pretty much everything on hit gives you a chance to attack. But on block, chances are few and far between. 1 forward 2, we talked about. That's +1. You can throw forward 2 right on top of them. Forward 2-1, same thing. That's +1 on block. So these are moves that you can use to just get a little bit of frame advantage, right? You do forward 2 while they're blocking all day. You do forward 2-1, and then you do 1-1. You'll catch them. If they decide to press a button right there, you'll catch them. So the frame advantage, the more the merrier, right? This little single frame is good to try to turn the tides, as long as you're keeping it smart. You know, you do simple things. Your sidestep 1+2 was another good one. This one is +2. It's hard to hit him with. It's so slow, I can't make him like block it that quickly. There you go. 2-2, right? They can't challenge you right there. And when your 2-2 hits, you know what to do, right? You've been training that all day. So using your frame advantage can definitely help, and you don't always get it everywhere. While running 2 is a good one. Even on normal block, that's +2. It's not a ton. So that's kind of why you want to go into stance on block, because your stance potential is way higher. That +2 is not great in neutral. It's good, but it's basically not any different from 1, right? That's basically the same advantage. But while running 2, you can leverage that advantage way better by following up the dash. And your king of frame and trapping is the Phoenix 3+4. Right? That's +7. You can do anything you want with +7. So at the end of the day, you're doing bop, bop into stance, bop, bop into stance, and they're just standing there blocking. You do this into that, you start all over again, right? They can't challenge you there. So frame advantage keeps it your turn as long as possible. And if they do try to stick their head in when it's not their turn, you should be thinking about what moves do I use that stop them right there, right? Like, oh, I know he's going to poke me back eventually, and I'm going to be ready with a 2-2 when he does. And I'm going to capitalize on that counter hit. So using that frame advantage is important. That's why we talked about in the stance, the Phoenix shift section, when you get 1-1 on hit, +6 is good. Go for stance. 1-1 on block, -3 bad. Don't go for stance. So that's a really, really important part of using the stance is that frame advantage. If you get a little hit, you can go for offense. If you get a little hit from 2-2, you can go into stance and get even better offense there. So 1-1, 2-2, forward 2-2, all of that stuff. They're all really good. And we talked about there's 4 standouts on block. Down forward 1-2 on block. 4-4 in the block, you can still go into stance. Back 2, and while running 2. Even when those get blocked, you can still go into stance. That's important to remember. Everything else, like 1-1, 2-2, while standing 1, do not go into stance unless those hit. That's really important. You'll get blown up. You're not invincible otherwise, but you will get blown up if you don't do it well. Even if you do have advantage, if you have, this +6 and you go for the hell sweep, you could still get hit, technically. It's just a matter of how far do I want to extend myself. If you don't want to extend yourself, just stick to Phoenix 2, Phoenix 4. You'll never get blown up for doing that when you do it right. So if you do want to extend yourself, go for hell sweeps, go for bigger stuff. The rewards are either there or they're not. If you keep getting stopped for doing that, then tone it back down. Stick to 2 and 4. So the 4 that are good on block are definitely worth remembering. The rest are punishers. 4-4 is your 12 frame punisher, while standing 4 is your punisher. Those are how you go into stance and do your magic from there. And we talked about the low level mix up is Phoenix 2 versus Phoenix 4. The mid is safe, the 4 is barely punishable, but they both have counter hit properties. Right? You can get wall splats, you can get heat engagers off of that. And you can get a smash off of this one. Tons of damage for risking almost nothing. You can go bigger, like we said, and go for hell sweeps if you want. If you take your frame advantage, like I know they're not going to react. I just hit them with 1-1. They're not going to react. Go for hell sweep. Put it all on the table. And again, at the end of the day, you cover your options. You have a power crush. If they're going to get jabby, power crush will stop that. And if they're going to do nothing, you have that big frame trap to start them all over again with +7 frames. So once you learn that, and then take a look at the Google Doc to, just get used to all of this and look at the math and you see how it all works. You see why 2 and 4 are uninterruptible. That's really valuable. But when you have things like that are 14, 4-4 in the stance +14, you can do whatever you want. The world is yours. Go for it. Make them pay. Again, you got to read your opponent though. You can't do hell sweep every time. You got to not do hell sweep once and then do, more hell sweeps. That's what it's about. The harder your risk, the more your rewards. So the best way to use your stance is all the time, but pick your chances. You're going to create a lot of chances by just simple pokes. Don't take those chances when they're not there. As far as the rest of the stances, Wings of Light, there's just no way to use this offensively in your neutral game. I don't see what it does, right? Like, I don't know if you want to just... I watched some footage of Knee playing yesterday, and he's like, when he was at 10 seconds left of the life lead, he would just sit out there, and the dude was like, because he probably didn't know about the lasers, like, what, do I duck this or whatever? So he kind of just stood out there. That's it. Like, this doesn't do anything other than like, haha, come get me, and then bang. Other than that, it's not really useful in neutral. So if you find something, I would love to hear about it. And the updraft stuff is basically the same for your other stance. Hard to work these into your game plan. Updraft 1 and follow up, that's okay, I guess. I don't know. Updraft 3 and start off, I don't know. It's not great. It's just there. So hard to work those stances into your offense. Phoenix shift is your focus. That's what matters. Use your frame advantage. smartly, and then when you're doing well, you can use it a little bit stupidly and take some risks if you want. So, in other terms, we talked about how frame advantage is used to make the opponent do bad things at the right time when it's not their turn. You can do the same sort of thing, right? You can use counter hits instead of stances to leverage that. So like, you know, a 2-1 hit, like 2-2-1 hit, you go into stance, right? But 2 doesn't go into stance. So you're thinking, okay, well, he's just going to let me keep attacking, right? I'm going to just do this stuff, and every time it hits, well, look at this. Like, I'm not making a decision every time this comes out, you know, all these things. All this stuff. Oh, there's a low. Bang, you know? All these things are coming out. So they're going to have to counterattack you eventually. It's up to you to guess the right moment. So you have offensive counter hits, as I call them. They're used for this. I'm going to poke you with this. I'm going to do mid. Ooh, I got you with this. Bang. Counter hit. So since back 4 and down 1+2 are safe, I just do those all day. If I feel like this is your chance, okay, I did this. I did a 1 jab. Ooh, I hit you with this. Bang, there's my counter hit. You just got to get the timing right. You just got to predict. And if you're wrong, they're still safe. It's their turn, whatever. So your offensive counter hit, back 4, down 1+2 are about the same thing, more or less. You throw them in there when you think your opponent's going to react poorly. If you're not, you know, you don't have to do stances all day. You don't have to go for that counter hit. There's plenty of other opportunities out there just to do that. And, you know, back 4, or whatever you think they're going to do, catch it with this. Down back 1-1, we also mentioned, is your good homing move. On counter hit, this is a launcher, which is pretty good. So this is nice to work in. You know, jab, 2 hit, bang, right? That's going to keep them from sidestepping all of your pressure. And if they want to press buttons during your pressure, that'll counter hit launch them. So that fits together really good. Down back 4 does the same. Down back 4 is a low counter hit, right? They're going to try to jab you. You can do this. It'll beat their jab. You throw this out once in a while when you have a good opportunity, maybe a little breathing room back here. You throw that out. You bait them into coming at you a little bit. Oh, I'm going to do this move. I just did this thing, right? Go for that. And they run right into it and get counter hit. So that's offensive counter hits. You kind of set them up for that stuff. Kind of hard to work in a lot of the other ones. Forward 2 is more defensive, I feel, like out in the range. 2-2 is a good one, though. It's not necessarily like a counter hit launcher, but 2-2-1 becoming a combo on counter hit. Like we talked about that before. Like, okay, there we go. We just got, I do 2, I'll do 2-2 again. Because if they press buttons, right, 2-2-1, oh, I got my counter hit, boom, there it is. 2-2-1 is really good for that because it's one of your fastest tools. Like I said, back 4 is a whole ass launcher, but it's 18 frames. 2-2 is only 12. And when you catch that counter hit, 40 damage in the wall splat is really good. The last counter hit setup I want to talk about, I mentioned while standing 1-2, how I like that for the damage. It's really hard to set that one up. You gotta like abuse while standing 1 in the stance and get away with it before they're going to bite it while standing 1-2. It's a weird one, but I kind of like it. It's strange. I'm proud of myself every time I successfully get that one in. It's not very often. Your stances also have counter hits. So we mentioned Phoenix 2 versus Phoenix 4. These are offensive counter hits. You're doing this and you're baiting them into pressing a button. You do this and they press a button, they just got counter hit. Do this, they press a button, they just got counter hit. So Phoenix 2 versus Phoenix 4. Phoenix 2-1, a little riskier, full combo. So that's how you run offense with frame advantage, stance mix up, backing off, resetting pressure, and just pay attention to where you are. Are you in control? Is it your turn or is it not? Just play that well. So you have mix-ups when you're in control, and you have counter hits when control might shift at a moment and you want to catch them doing that. Defensive counter hits, in my opinion, are when that has shifted and you defend yourself with them. I feel like back 1 also serves that role. It's not super duper fast, but it's not too bad in that regard, right? If they're pressuring you, and that's a good way to try to like get them off there. It's not the best for it. And again, I think your 2-2-1 is also really, really good here as a defensive counter hit. You can use it in your pressure and stuff like that on offense, 2-2 counter hit. But when they're pressuring you, right, and they did something like you just blocked a down forward 1, 2-2. 2-2 is going to blow up whatever they do next, right? That's how the frame data works. So 2-2-1 confirmed into 1. It's a pretty good defensive counter hit. Forward 2-2-2 is similar, but it's a little bit slower. But it's excellent range in mid. It's almost kind of like forward 2 out here, right? Like they're coming at you and you have the range to do that. Forward 2-2-2 turns out to be really good. But defensive counter hits, like I said, not his strength. This is not the character's best thing. Same with evasion. He doesn't go over highs and lows. He doesn't have crouch ball game, none of that stuff. Counter hits on defense are not amazing. Evasion is not great. He has forward 3 to jump over lows. He has 3+4, which is a low parry launcher, I guess. If you want to go for that, cool, but you're going to get just kicked out of the sky for it. I don't love it. Phoenix 3+4, this frame trapping move, that also beats lows. So if they try duck jabbing, they lose. That's kind of what it is. If you use one of these moves and it beats a low, it's luck. It wasn't planned, right? You can't really use this stuff to your advantage in that way. It just happens. If you happen to do updraft and it jumps over it, hooray. That's about it as far as jumping over lows. Going under highs, same thing. Down 1 is like the only move he has that goes under highs. And down forward 3, hell sweep, which I do not want to use. Sidestepping is way better. You want to avoid their attacks entirely instead of block, sidestep. Sidestep is the king here because you have hit confirmable, heat engager, and you just screwed up, pal. And if you didn't screw up, now I'm +2 anyway. It's offense time, right? Sidestep is way better. But if that's not your cup of tea either, you don't like blocking and you don't like going around stuff, you have Power Crush. Back 1+2 is a basic mid Power Crush, does nice damage, -14. Nothing really to say about it. You get chip damage from it if you do block it, but it powers up if it eats something. Power Crushes are all like that. Same with Phoenix 1. The 1 button out of your stance is a similar Power Crush. Mid, unsafe, but it does damage, right? If you think they're going to jab you out of your stance, you have this. If you're getting jabbed and beaten up, you have back 1+2 to get them off you. That's about all that it is. It's all you need, right? Power Crushes don't need to do more than that. They're just a better form of evasion. If you're not a character that goes under, around, and over stuff, which he's not, you're fairly stoic, you have Power Crushes to get off until you can make a good read, catch your breath. To that end, the best out of all of them, as we mentioned in the beginning, is back 3. This parry with his little red flash. This is a godlike parry. So back 3 parries pretty much everything as far as I can tell. You get that time freeze. It works on Clive's own sword. It works on chainsaws, everything I can find. This works. Obviously throws are going to beat it and lows are going to beat it. But it's got a long window too. You don't have to get it quite right. It's got a pretty decent window. Whoops. But anyway, you get this time freeze. So during that time freeze, you press 2. Guaranteed damage. He's not even done kicking you. He's frozen and he gets blasted by that. The other thing you could do is 1+2. Same thing, except it switches sides, right? You notice that's basically the same thing as your Phoenix 2-2. Phoenix 2-2 does that very same thing. It charges in Tetsuken and changes sides. So if you want to change sides, you press 1+2 to retaliate. If you don't want to change sides, bang, just press 2 and you're done. That is incredible. That is his best defensive tool by a mile. If you think if you can't get out of pressure, just try doing that. It's just as good as Power Crush, right? Its timing might be a little tighter, but not really. It's got really good timing. So you don't have to worry about, ducking under stuff, going under things. Sidestep is really good, but parrying is the best thing that he has. So his defensive counter hits, they're His evasion is not good. His parry is incredible. So that's the core of your defense. If you can't get him off, you parry that stuff. Yeah, I mean, you could get kicked in the face if you miss, but don't miss, right? That's what this is for. Is I know you're going to come at me. I've got you set up. You're tired of all this stuff. And rather than going for a counter hit like that, I'll just parry. You can do that instead. So that kind of takes the place of a lot of what we just talked about, but they're all your choice. They're all how you want to play defense. Not the best toolkit for basic stuff, right? There's no 12 frame counter hit. Well, actually, there's 2-2-1. 2-2-1 is not super conventional when you think about counter hit stuff, but that's pretty good. That does the trick. And if that's not doing the trick, parry. That's kind of all you need. So let's wrap up this whole enchilada with top 15 moves. These moves, I think you could use nothing but and be totally fine. Tekken characters have 80, 90 moves. You don't need them all. Most of them have pretty good purpose. It's about familiarity, right? You got to keep it simple at first. But when you're learning Clive, these 15 moves will get you a long, long way. There's a lot of balance to this character. He's well thought out and simple. That's what works. So for pressure kind of tools, your 1 series, I'm going to count the 1 series as one move, right? 1-1 in the stance, 1-2 knockdown, 1 forward 2, etc., stuff like that. That's one move. I'm going to call the 1 series is one of my moves. I'm cheating a little bit. Those are really good. The 2s are the same. 2-2 series in the stance, 2-1 Punisher, blah, blah, blah. The counter hit confirms, the stance confirmed, all this stuff is really, really good. Forward 2 does the same thing with mid from super good range. Forward 2-1 is, plus on block. Forward 2-2, etc., etc. Using the stance correctly, using the framing advantage correctly and confirming hits, all that stuff. Once you're getting good at that, these moves are so good. There's such a great basic pokey system, right? There's all kind of things you can do with this stuff. And they all look the same. They all sound the same. They're just sword swingy whatever. It's really hard for the opponent to catch good timing in here when you're mixing it up. So all those are really good. They all complement each other very, very well. As far as pressure and timing, I like to mention down back 2-1. Just because this messes with them, in my opinion. That like delay. They have to like sit there and think about that. They can block it, it's -3, but they're downtown, they can't do anything. It's a good way to do in the middle of your pressure stuff and just kind of like, you know, just reset some spacing, do that. I think that's really good. As far as pressure is concerned, it's about the mental timing. I think that screws with their mental timing in a really good way. Your lows are all good. Down 1 is a great offensive low. Goes under highs, plus on hit. Down back 4, same thing. Plus on hit. Counter hit as a launcher, just a little bit riskier. Don't let that stop you though. Use this move a lot. And your hell sweep out of stance. Phoenix 3, 1+2 to break the floor, or just Phoenix 3-2. Those are your high riskiest lows of all. When you use these correctly and they keep getting hit by that hell sweep, you're going to win, right? They're having a bad time. Those are you got to work your way up to that, right? You got to make sure they're not going to be anticipating lows. And as an opponent who doesn't like to duck, you start just throwing these out all day, it's going to be a long day for them. That's the big payoff low, is the hell sweep out of Phoenix stance. Some of your other big reward moves to abuse, I've talked about these several times. You're running 2, you get guaranteed follow-ups on that. Back 2, you get guaranteed follow-ups on hits. And even on block, you still get really good pressure from these. They have good advantage into your Phoenix stance. You get free mix-up, all kind of good stuff from that. Sidestep 1+2 is a launcher. You get a clean whiff, boom. And if they block it, +2. Awesome stuff all around, great move. And I like while standing 3. This does good damage for just a basic homing mid with the dog. It's not fast, but I think that's really kind of nice. If you happen to duck something or if you're doing down 1, like I don't know, that's just a move that seems to fit for me. I like the way it works. It's very practical, it's safe, it's mid, it's homing. All that stuff is really good. Some of your defensive options, your counter hits, your ways to like turn the tides or whatever. You have some decent counter hits in back 4. Down 1+2, they're pretty much the same thing. Those are your go-to counter hit launchers. Same with down back 1-1, because down back 1-1 is a homing move. Right, you gotta like that. Those are good counter hits. But the best of all defensively is back 3. Your back 3 parry is the crown jewel of your defense. Parries everything, free damage. Love it. And one bonus move is Zantetsuke. 1+4 is this guy that we talked about. It's a weird system. You charge that meter up throughout playing the game, right? You have tons of moves. Check the Google Doc. It lists them all. As that meter powers up, this move powers up. So this is an honorable mention because it's unique to him, and it's just there as like combo enders, right? You get close to the round, you can do that, and boom, there's 90 million damage waiting for you. So that's definitely the honorable mention because it's very unique to him, and he uses his Final Fantasy meter thingy, whatever that is. So that is pretty much everything that you need. The rest of it are all just, like I said before, they're wrinkles that you can add on to it. Extra layers of the lasagna. More stuff you use, the more difficult it is for them to anticipate. But play fundamental, play smart, and then evolve. That's all you need to do. What have we learned? We've got a basic, straightforward, fundamental character that you can flex out in some good opportunities when you learn the right chances to use your stance and go for deeper mix-ups and continue to frustrate them. He works really, really well. A lot of stuff to mess with their timing up close, quick pokey stuff that transitions into stance and continues to pay off. Mid-range, big heavy mids, tons of stuff that pay off. Some great things you can abuse all day, like back 2 and sidestep 1+2. Awesome stuff. Really good lows. His lows are a few, but they're solid. They do every job very, very well. The stance is good. The stance has low leverage, high leverage situations. You can use that all day in offense. Then on defense, it's not the best. Counter hits are okay. You got enough pokey stuff that you could counter poke them back and you'll be all right. You've got a power crush and you've got a parry. That's pretty much it. You're probably better off to play offense with this character, but defensively, you're not helpless either. So it's up to you. He's a fundamental basic character, like I said in the beginning. If you want to just play basic fundamental Tekken, you're good. That's kind of all you need. You start moving on into more advanced stuff, there's a lot more stuff to start paying off for you there. So I think he's really cool in that regard. The flashy stuff might take a while to get used to, but there's a lot of depth in there. If you want to play a smart, complicated game, he's got that covered for you too. So I think it's all around really solid. He's not bad. He's not going to be great. He's going to be pretty good though. He's as good a character as you are as playing Tekken, right? he'll go with you as far as you need to. So if there's anything I didn't cover, if you have other thoughts on strategy or, you know, like tech stuff, like, oh, you should do this on the ground, or, oh, this is afraid, blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that, leave in the comments. I check almost all of those as much as I can. Anything else, any corrections will get posted in the description. Make sure you follow the Google Doc that's linked in there. Everything I talked about, all the notes, numbers, color-coded, everything. Check that stuff out and open it up while you're playing. Just like, oh yeah, I forgot that exists. It really comes in handy a lot, in my opinion. So that's going to do it. I hope this helps you out a little bit. If you're new to Tekken, this might be a lot. I have a set of basics videos on my channel. They'll teach you movement and inputs and stuff. You got to learn how to play the game first before picking up a video like this. But if you're a Tekken veteran, you want to learn a new character, I think this is a pretty good way to get started. I think this will help you a lot, and check out that doc. So if it did, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the like and the notify. All that stuff really helps a lot. It honestly does. It helps me with data metrics and all that crap, and it gets you alerted whenever I post another video, right? The Clive combo video will be coming soon, so make sure you click the notify, and you'll get alerts whenever that video comes out. So hopefully I will see all of you in one of those videos down the road. So until then, later.